My name is Caleb Zitzek, and this is my public speaking presentation about my final research paper. My research paper was on censorship. We see censorship a lot throughout the world, not necessarily in our country as much, but throughout the world we do see it a good amount. So, in countries like, say, North Korea, where it's an authoritarian country where it's mainly just one leader and the government really doesn't have any say besides that one leader. That one leader makes up all the rules and everything that goes on throughout the country. That's what an authoritarian country classifies as. In countries like that, one being North Korea, the censorship is insane. Like, you wouldn't even believe it. They don't even have access to internet in North Korea like a normal citizen like me or you. Nobody can have access to the internet. Only high government officials have it. In countries like China is more of a communist. So for some reason they have a lot of censorship as well. In their country, they have very, very limited access to the internet. And also I also read about how if you have a male baby, like if you have a child and your child is a male, they can stay in the country. If you have a child and it's a woman, like a female baby, you have to send them up for adoption and they'll pretty much get deported from their country. So with that, we don't really see anything like that in the U.S. We have pretty open borders. The borders is a very ongoing issue. But we also have free-flowing internet. And what that means is you have access to the internet no matter who you are, no matter where you are, as long as you have service. The only thing we don't have access to is the dark web, but there are still ways to get to the dark web, even if you don't actually have access to it, you can learn how to have access to it. But in the US, there have been a lot of court cases that have come up in schools where a lot of the censorship in the past has happened. And with that, a lot of censorship in schools was mainly for like peaceful protests or what someone was wearing or doing. And what came out of those was if you don't lose your... So Tinker versus Des Moines was a very controversial court case. It was when two Tinkers were siblings, and one of their friends. They all wore a black armband to school around their arm. It was a peaceful protest against the Vietnam War. And the Vietnam War at the time was very problematic, and a lot of people didn't agree with us being there. So peacefully protesting it actually went all the way up to the Supreme Court because the students were then expelled. So when it went all the way up to the Supreme Court, they then decided that you don't lose your constitutional rights when you enter schoolhouse grounds. With schoolhouse grounds being, as soon as you walk into school, you have all the same rights that if you were to be outside of school. And we've seen a lot of that throughout the world now, or like throughout our country now. Like, say I was wearing this shirt and they didn't agree with this shirt or they didn't like this shirt, then they would tell me to take it off or flip it inside out. That, in my opinion, is still censorship, but that's kind of a controversial thing. But what came out of that was that a lot of places you can't, as long as it's not a distracting or it's causing a disruptance to learning, that you can do or wear or say whatever you want to an extent. So we see and saw a lot of censorship inside of schools inside of the US in the past, but also we see a lot of censorship and have seen censorship with the ongoing issue and past issue about the 2020 election and the Hunter Biden laptop. That laptop had a lot of information saying that the Bidens themselves were making money from Ukraine and Russia, and the FBI went to lead social media, like the people at the head of the social media, and had told them that they were not allowed to talk about that said issue and that laptop on their platform because the election was going on. So a place down in New Jersey, it was a college or like an institute, they actually did a study on, I think it was 1,800 adults, to see if they knew about the laptop, and if they did, would it have changed their vote. And they were all registered Democrats, by the way. What I looked at were all registered Democrats. So whoever voted for Biden in 2020 would have changed their vote to vote for Trump if they knew about the laptop, which that information was out of this world. How many actual people would have voted for Trump over Biden? I think the numbers were anywhere from between like 4 million if you were to equate across the entire country. But either way, I looked at and did the math for the amount of people in the states that Trump lost by. It was Georgia, Pennsylvania was one. There was a couple other ones that were like swing states that he lost in 2020. That if you did the math, he would have ended up winning those states. Possibly would have ended up winning those states, which in turn would have won him the Electoral College and won the election. So I think it was really interesting to learn about that and kind of see like what you can really do with math and studies. And also, it was just an interesting thing to learn about between censorship in other countries and how they don't have access to the internet versus how we have access to the internet wherever you go and no matter what you do. So I think it was really interesting overall as a topic, and I think it really helped me kind of look at and understand what censorship really is and what it really means to be censored. But yeah, that's my presentation, and I hope you guys enjoy.